Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has published a broad and sweeping criticism of the Federal Reserve in an issue which is now online, and we've read the whole thing, or most of the whole thing, in the magazine called The International Economy. In the article, he calls for an internal Fed review of its policy and all of the things it does, and even suggests that the regulatory function, the bank regulatory function, should perhaps be stripped from the Federal Reserve. Says the FDIC and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency are better situated to fulfill these bank regulatory functions. He several times notes the failure when it comes to Silicon Valley Bank. He says Fed policy has led to inequality, undermined its credibility. He talks about mission creep, gain of function policies, and all of these, he says, has threatened the Fed's independence. The Fed, he says, needs to scale back distortions it causes in the economy, which is not even a veiled reference to the idea of the Fed's balance sheet. He says the Fed must establish its credibility as an independent institution. He accuses the Fed of having political biases in its models. In other words, what its models tell them about the outlook for growth when it comes to government spending versus tax cuts. The Fed, he says, has become beholden to its self-interest at the cost of national interest. Monetary policy, he says, should not be made in the White House or on Capitol Hill. So he's still backing Fed independence, but he says it's the obligation of leaders to point out the Fed's shortfalls. He calls for QE to be used only in true emergencies and in coordination with the rest of the government. So this is a 3,000-word piece. I think I've read all but the sidebars. One of the sidebars is, let's see if I can find it here. It's called Capitalism for Everyone, Socialism for the Markets. So, Frank, this, I don't know. The bigger question is this a precursor to some big changes that might be suggested by the Treasury? Or is this just the Treasury Secretary giving his thoughts and feelings and no political consequences? But certainly, this could be a context for action in Congress, Frank, when it comes to the Federal Reserve.